Okay, here we are. Sorry about that, folks. We had a little technical issue here. It's called my thumbs. Couldn't type something right. Anyway, we're back. Go ahead, Stan.
Okay, so we're ready to continue, but let's together do a short meditation for approximately 30 seconds so that we bring our energies in cohesion. Okay, ready? And begin. Okay, finish. Okay, we left off with the collective energy transfer. We mentioned about the list, and again, this is very direct and very simplified. You simply collect your friends can also be, as well as family members, can be included on the list. And again, there's no limit. You only need a minimum of 2 people. Okay. Now we suggest if you have someone, let's say you have an elderly grandparent who has a particularly serious illness, take them off the collective list and give them energy on an individual basis. Okay. If there's someone who's involved in an accident, and let's say they're in very terrible condition, then again, you want to still do them individually. So there are some circumstances where you want to take the people off and then deal with them on an individual basis. Now, the other option is on site. What we mean by on site, let's say if you're a school teacher and you're teaching a class in history, you tell your students to turn to the Civil War history period that you're studying, page 96 for an example. And then as a teacher, you're sitting behind the desk, and what you're doing with eyes open, you're simply sending energy. You're doing a collective energy transfer for everyone in the classroom. 10 seconds minimum to 1 minute max. Now we've had feedback from many teachers that did this, and they noticed that, when the flu season came out, that their students did not catch the flu. Okay. And we know for a fact, it was because of the energy transfer. But again, you're going to gauge the feedback on your own. So you have to convince yourself, because remember, you're the engineer. This energy belongs to you. So that means when you perform it with a certain intention. If you're very careless or reckless about it, if your mind is wandering, then they're not going to get sufficient energy for it to have any effect. So again, you're the one that's make this effective because you are the practitioner. But the energy is always working. So it's never a factor of does the energy work? Because if the energy stopped working, we would all blank out of existence. So the energy is always working. The question is that do we work? Okay, so that means if we focus on intention, our mind is clear, then as a vessel, that energy will go as intended. Okay. Okay, in the next category, what we call emergency energy transfer. Let's say you're driving and you notice that there's been an auto accident on the side. You don't have to have any details. You can continue driving, but in your mind, you send energy to that part here. And what's good about that is that the recipients, if they're injured, the energy will help them maintain until they go to the hospital and receive treatment there. However, if they've passed away, if they were killed in that accident, and the light that you're sending, remember, it's not the light of you, not your body. This is the light of the universe. Okay, in spiritual terms, it's the light of the Creator, the light of God. That energy, once received, will help them to go on to the next chapter of their evolution. Okay, we'll send them to the into the uh, into the higher dimension, okay, or the spiritual world. So you have two possibilities. Okay? If you were, let's say, out and you hear an ambulance go by, you don't need to know who was injured or anything. You just send energy to that ambulance. And believe it or not, if the ambulance was going to pick somebody else up to take to the hospital, that person will still receive the energy. Okay? If they're taking someone to the hospital, but then again, quite naturally, you send energy to the ambulance and then that person will receive the energy. We're doing this out of love and compassion. Remember this. We never worry about how effective the energy is. The only thing for us to be concerned of is that as we do the energy transfer, are we clear? Are we empty? That way we're serving as merely a conduit, a vessel for the energy to go through. That's all we are. So in some terms, the healers now are regarding themselves as being more of a facilitator. So you hear a common statement said, I did my technique or my formula or whatever, but I didn't heal anyone. It's the energy that did the work. I'm just a facilitator. I'm just a conduit or the channel to send that energy to that particular target. And the energy knows exactly what to do. Whereas before, you have a lot of healers become very proud of the fact, yes, I can do that. But in teaching the universal energy, the master want to make it very adamant. Says, no, you're not doing anything. You're serving as instrument. However, there is merit in doing this work. Okay. But the energy that you're sending belongs to the whole. It does not belong to an individual or particular group. It belongs to the whole of humanity. So this is the sort of concept and principle by which we practice the energy transfer. This is I'll give you another example of emergency energy transfer. We had a member, a practitioner in our center, and she was a vegetarian. She worked in a steakhouse restaurant, believe it or not. So there was a customer that was choking on a piece of steak, and she did it remotely. And sure enough, she came back and told us the story. When she sent energy, he just upchucked a piece of meat. Okay. So in an emergency situation, we kind of laughed at it. Wow, if you weren't there at that time, no matter what will happen. I also have a funny story about Bill Thomas and I. I think this was after martial arts class. We came to eat. We went together to eat out at this Mexican restaurant. We had some very greasy burritos, right? So Bill and I are looking at each other, and we're feeling. So, are you feeling what I'm feeling? All this grease and all is sitting in our stomach. And I told Bill, why don't we give each other energy transfers? I do you, you do me. And Bill said, Stan, I don't want to do this. It's embarrassing. There's too many people here. I said, forget them. Let's do it. So we took turns giving each other energy. The next day we laughed about it. I said, what happened when you went home? We went straight to the restroom and everything flushed out. So if you give energy with somebody that's say undergoing food poisoning or anything that doesn't agree, make sure you get a waste basket very close because the energy will be very fast. Okay, very fast. Okay. But we have so many stories regarding the emergency energy transfer. It was one of the areas that actually gave us confidence that this was really happening. Okay, that the energy was actually valid because we would injure each other, we would give energy transfer, and believe it or not, it would heal. But one thing, if it's painful, it will heal. The pain will go away right away. The next day, it may turn blue and whatever. It may look awful, but the next day, it's about 90% back. What we found out, and I know a lot of doctors will put this to the test, is that we're actually accelerating the healing process. Okay. Noteworthy story too, and I hope we have time. I think we'll have time enough to cover everything. One of you guys, who's monitoring the time? As a matter of fact, I want somebody to kind of keep me. If I'm 10 minutes, to go, let
How
me
much
know.
more time do you have?
Okay. Well, I think in about 15 minutes we'll be done. Okay. All right. But it depends on too how many questions you guys may have. But this is a noteworthy too. It really showed us how the energy worked. There was a practitioner that was taking his two sons shopping. He has two boys in the truck for shopping. And something came to his mind and says, go to this shopping mall. And this shopping mall was in the opposite direction that he normally goes. And he says, this doesn't make any logical sense. I'm not going to go that way. I'm going to go to the one that we normally go to. But the thought persisted. So since he's an energy practitioner, he says, well, maybe there's something to this. He turns around and he goes there. When he goes there and pulls up in the parking lot, he found out that a guy who was trying to work on his engine, he had his truck um, up on the thing, okay, and it collapsed. And he's in the front, and his truck pins him against the wall of the store. He's shouting in dire pain, extreme pain. So the practitioner comes in, and he sees him in this condition. Immediately, the guy is just yelling out in dire pain. Places his hand on his crown chakra, and he stops yelling. He says, "What do you feel?" He says, "I don't feel anything." And he stayed that way until the paramedics came. But again, we had so many cases of the emergency energy transfer, even with people who have fainted, okay, passed out. Now, the technique then was that we placed our hands on the crown chakra, but now we're doing it telepathically. All you need to do is send energy to the body, and that person generally will just revive immediately. So we had so many miraculous feedback situations from the emergency that it actually gave us more motivation to keep learning because we knew that this was something behind us and it needed to be practiced as well as research. Now, the next category we already covered, which is food, beverage. Also, this could apply to a bottle of vitamins. It could apply to medication. Also, it applies to others as well. So if you have someone in your family who's received medicine, you can transfer energy to that medicine. You don't have to keep doing it. If it's like a bottle or a jar of tablets, capsules, you need to just transfer it one time. So all the capsules in there would have received the energy. Now, what that does is that it removes the toxic effect the medication will have on the physical symptoms. It may still have an effect, but what we're doing it by sending the energy is that we lower the effect of the toxin in that medication. Another way of explaining it too, which Blue Train really helped me, is that energy is based on balance and equilibrium. It also is based on harmony. So what's happening is that your system with the universal energy starts to harmonize with the toxins of the material that is taken in, thereby reducing the effect. Okay. So he told me something very interesting. So, they're trying to find a vaccine for, the COVID-19. He says, really, if you know how to use the energy properly, you can actually receive that virus. But if your system is trained, when that virus go into your system, okay, your system, instead of fighting it, instead of your immune system attacking it, it will harmonize with that virus. And therefore, it would alleviate a lot of the symptoms. And if you need to take other medication with it, it will be more effective in that way. What happens a lot of times is that our immune system is designed so that anything foreign that comes in, it's going to immediately attack. So you have this battle, this war taking place. But the HUE works on the opposite level. It works on harmonizing it. So this is why when we had people with HIV and they've been taking the UE for, let's say, several weeks, they will find out through the testing that the level of HIV is still the same. However, the symptoms have dramatically diminished. And this really perplexes doctors a lot. So how come they're not going through symptoms that they normally should and were going through, and they found out that, okay, well, maybe there's something to this. Okay, it doesn't eliminate the disease, at least not in the early stages, but there's something fantastic happen after this. But the immediate effect of the HIV is that it will actually harmonize with the HIV virus. And by harmonizing with it, it helps to reduce the symptoms. And I really worked myself, my butt off trying to get a home that was resident HIV home. And this is only a couple of blocks from where I actually lived at. And I never knew this was an HIV home. And I gave them submissions that we practice this energy healing. We would like to know if you're interested in this. But anyway, after 4 tries, finally on the 4th one, they allowed us to come in. And out of about 36 residents, only 6 people were consistent in coming in every day when we were there and we get a hands-on. And out of those 6, 2 of them were able to get well to leave the home, get their own apartment. The other 2 that were very far gone, when they passed away, we were told by the person there that their death was very unusual because normally when they pass away, with the stage of HIV that they have, it would be a lot of discomfort, a lot of pain. But when they passed away very peacefully. The other was a school teacher. We helped him. And he was very excited one day. He said, wow, they did a test on me. He said, they found that the virus was undetectable. So he thought, wow, he's really making progress. Now, when I first approached the master with this, project, he looked at me and says, it's insignificant. And my ego just like would drop. But he didn't tell me to forsake it. He didn't tell me not to do it. I went through it anyway. But then, in that example of the ex-school teacher, he showed me why it was insignificant. Because as we're giving energy with the person, helping the person, what are the doctors that's administering the medication think? It's the medication that's working. So he was getting even more medication. So what happened is that he ended up relapsing. So this is why the master always said we have to work alongside the doctor in order to truly be effective. So they can measure this, through their tests, and they can verify what's actually happening. Okay, the next category is disasters and storms. Let's say there's a tornado coming into your region. What we do is the same thing. You simply look up in the atmosphere and you just send energy from 10 seconds to 1 minute. Now, if it's a tornado, there's one specific instruction. That is, you want to visualize sending the tornado up into the atmosphere. Do not visualize it sending it out because you would send it away and it would do destruction to another town. Right? You don't want to do that. So you want to send it up so they could dissipate in the upper atmosphere. So whenever there's a tornado or whatever, you always visualize sending it up into the atmosphere. If there's an earthquake, it's the same thing. Okay, you send energy to that area for 10 seconds to 1 minute. Any form of natural disaster or storm, you're able to help with the universal energy. If unfortunately the people that are injured there, when you send energy, let's say to an earthquake, then those who are injured will get help they will get better. You want to continue to do this at least once each day. It's not just a one day thing. For those who were killed in the earthquake, their souls generally are still around their body. A lot of times when you meet a violent death, the soul doesn't really go forward from the body. Okay? Matter of fact, sometimes when it happens, they don't really actually realize that they're truly, you know, dead, so to speak. Okay, so they tendency to hang close to the physical body. So they're still there. So when you send that energy, okay, remember the energy has its own intelligence. For those who are injured, it will help stabilize them so they can get medical help. For those who are passed on, we help them to go to the light. So this is how it was explained to us, okay, in the early years of HUB teaching. Now, the 4 areas of concern, like I mentioned to you guys, I had a special download about a month ago, that as energy practitioners, you want to be aware of. And again, this is optional on your part. If you wish to do this, you can. But the 4 areas of concern that they brought to me was the one I've already mentioned, the AI research over the globe. Any artificial intelligence research they conduct over the globe. Again, all you need to do is just think of just in your mind, artificial intelligence research, and it will go all over the globe. This is to help to guide the doctors to more of the positive end and more the humane end in terms of the research. The other is climate change. Okay, so you want to sit specifically and just think of climate change. You only need to think of it once, clear your mind, and send upward for 10 seconds to 1 minute. The other is the world economy. Believe it or not, an economic war sometimes can be worse than actually a military war. Okay, because it could have low, very slow changes that occur. So in terms of the world economy, that's also a very important area. So again, you can think of the globe and energy for that time span. The last is the military tension around the globe. Military tension around the globe, around the planet. Just look at the planet, or think of the planet in your mind. If you have a globe, you can look at the globe, and you send energy in 10 seconds or 1 minute. Along with that, you can send energy to the entire planet. We recommend you do this at least once or twice a day. Again, you visualize planet Earth. You can either look at an emblem or a symbol or a globe itself, and for 10 seconds to 1 minute, send the planet Earth. Okay. So we're helping in a holistic manner. We're dealing with the whole, and then we can break it down to each individual problems. And we can also deal with it on a country-to-country basis and so forth. Remember one thing very important about the energy. The energy is designed to bring love and compassion to the world, the higher frequency. It is not meant to form a bias from one to the other. Give you an example. You send energy to President Trump for him to change, it won't work, okay? You're sending energy for him to be balanced, okay? Because sometimes when you send energy, it actually causes a negative to come out, which means it can become worse because it's healing. So it's eliminating, it's purifying. And as it purifies, it's going to throw all the negative stuff out first so this person become cleaner. It takes that process. Master's son gave a good example of that. He was a passenger in a car, and the couple was in the front seat. I believe it was the husband that was driving, and they got into an argument. He says, "Okay, they're driving. I want to calm this down." So he sends energy to the couple, and lo and behold, they argue even more intensely. So he couldn't understand it and brought it back to his wife. He said, "Dad, I used the energy to calm them down," and they start to argue even more. And the master laughed at that and says, "Yeah, it doesn't work that way. You send energy to help the situation. Sometimes when you help the situation, it gets worse, but it's actually healing." He said, and he told his son, "Did they crash?" He says, "No." "Was there an accident?" "No." He says, "Don't worry, everything came out fine. You got to your destination and it worked out fine." Okay. It's definitely particularly when you're dealing with the flu, okay, because your first energy transfer, it starts to cleanse out the impurities. So you're going to go to the bathroom, your fever may go higher, and you may think, "Oh my God, the energy is doing, the exact opposite." But it's removing or it's cleansing and purifying. So it's releasing all those stuff. Okay. So we have no preference on what happens. We're only those practitioners with our goodwill. We're only the senders. We're only the facilitators. We're only the channel. Now, for everything that we've covered so far, is any questions? Everyone's pretty clear?
No, I'm just writing a lot of notes.
Okay.
What?
I just said I've been writing a ton of notes, so. Yeah.
Yeah, don't forget, this is all gonna go up on YouTube too, so that's,
Okay.
Now, it's going to be very noteworthy when we meet again in approximately a month. To let you guys know too, also, this teaching is designed for the student to become the teacher. So you will be teaching others. We recommend that you at least get maybe a month or 2 months under your belt, and then you'll be giving the session for teaching others. But this teaching is meant to be spread as much as possible. It doesn't conflict with any other method of using energy, because people would pick and choose what energy method fits them. But the reason it's called universal energy because it really fit in any modality per se, because it's built to raise the vibration of the earth. Once we're successful in raising the vibration of the earth, then spirituality will become normal. It won't even have to be taught. People will just acclimate to this fire. You won't have to remind people to be kind. You won't have to remind people to be honest because it will be in the air. Okay, it would be part of the atmosphere. So that's the goal that we're going for. And I think that's the overall goal of all energy practice. We just have different ways to climb the mountain. Okay? But we've had many practitioners from different methods, pranic healing, Reiki, and so forth, complimenting. Well, when you want to use Reiki, you use Reiki. You want to use GPE or UE, you use it, okay? Because there's no conflict, okay? Because it's based on love and compassion. And I believe.
hey, Rob. Oh, sorry, I thought have you tried working with this yet, or are you learning it now?
No, actually, I don't know if you guys remember, but I was at a couple of the things. You guys
Oh,
opened
yeah,
my
man, I
chakras a long
like
time
you
ago,
there.
and I went
Yeah,
to level 5 or level 6 or something like
okay,
that.
that's
Got a
what I
bunch of
did.
pins and buttons and certificates, but it's in the drawer with like my diplomas. It's yeah. But no, I have continued to lay hands and open chakras. My wife, who I'm currently married to, hopefully forever, you know. But yeah, no, I've continued to sort of practice on the down low. I'm not much of an evangelist for it, but dude, I don't believe in any coincidences, and there are too many events that have happened in my life for me to doubt any of this. So
Well, and the
I'm
thing
just
is,
intrigued to get reinvigorated.
no, it's cool. And Stan knows this, and Nikki, and maybe Dan somewhat, but you got to look at somebody like Joe Dispenza. You hip to him, Dr. Joe Dispenza? Oh my goodness, man, neuroscience guy. Started out as a chiropractor. He's got a whole team down in Arizona, the Heart Math Institute,
Mhm.
and all they do is hook up people to all the newest biofeedback stuff, take them through meditations,
Right.
and a lot of it's to downregulate genes that are doing them no good and upregulate dormant genes. And they've had phenomenal success with this. And what's cool about it is, though, like Stan said, it's really, they'll say study of consciousness, but they admit that what they've realized they're studying is spirituality. And consciousness comes out of that. And but those guys are quantifying, recording and quantifying results that people get doing the meditation work. And his stuff is about healing.
Mm.
Starts off initially teaching people how to heal themselves, and then it goes beyond. And it's really in sync with everything here. In a little different way of doing it, perhaps. Stan's is more accelerated, I believe, and I've had some pretty phenomenal. I'm the kind of guy that records everything. I've got logs. The
Lots of
people I worked
paths,
on.
one destination, right? I mean, lots
Yeah,
of different paths, one destination, though.
yeah. I've always been kind of almost like a statistics guy, though. There are people that I've treated that I didn't tell, and I'd say, "Oh, how you feeling now?" And there are people that I told, and there are people that are remote, and there are people that were hands-on, and I kept enough data to look at that and say, well, this is way beyond chance probability. Plus, I myself have, when I do protocols and draw energy, and this has been this way since I went through the old level 6 with Stan, it still kind of freaks me out a little bit to this day. Even when he was doing the activations a while ago, I'll start to feel, I didn't feel it right in my C6, but over on the other side, on the left side of it, I start to feel kind of like a tingling pressure. Do you get any sensations? You too. Okay, there you go. See, yeah, that's not
That's why I thought there was some utility to perhaps the old approach where you did do hands-on, because it did seem easier to sort of get that, it's like, whoa, okay, yeah,
Yes.
we're done.
Yeah.
Kind of, this is going
I
to take
think
a
other
minute
people
to get
like it too. They feel like they know you're doing something then, just because your hands are there. I think it's a psych thing.
Yeah, there certainly there's an element of that there too, but we
I
know
think.
something a little bit beyond that as well. So
Sure.
And
Yeah,
this,
it's pretty cool.
yeah, we're in such a very exciting. This is a very precious time to be born, guys. To come into the planet at this time where there's going to be a tremendous shift, a paradigm shift that's going to change it like day from night, or from night to day. Okay, from negative to positive. Once we go into the new period, this will seem like a distant history. And if we still have grandchildren or great grandchildren, they're going to want us. They're going to want to sit around the fireplace so they can explain why we were so backwards. In other words, at that time, because this will progress us to a level where a lot of things will be taken away. Because remember, the process is that we are relearning something that we always had. We never lost this except in our belief system. We weren't taught that we could do this. So we built a sort of lifestyle and a belief system to cut us off from our divinity. You know, now the paradigm shift is that we're going back to the original. We're reawakening and says, well, yeah, you're right. And Tesla and Einstein, everything is energy. But what does that mean? Your energy. Okay. If you're energy, then that means that your primary nature is energetic. So you can operate on an energetic level. Matter of fact, your primary state of being is energetic. So it's quite natural for you to be able to influence things from the level of energy. So this will open up so many avenues of research. And so, like Ken mentioned, in the near future, we will meet these guys. Okay, if they learn about it, they may actually send us requests that we come and visit them so they can test us in a way. When Master Dang was teaching, there was so much skepticism. You know?
right.
There's still a lot of skepticism in the medical field, and I don't mean this to be critical, but it's just that when the capitalists took over medicine, you have the science of medicine, but unfortunately, you have the politics of medicine. So you have these medications, these pharmaceuticals that say, well, you take this, it's going to help you feel better, but on the side, you can raise your blood pressure, or it could actually cause cardiac arrest. Now, if the common person thinks, what am I doing? I'm taking this from a condition, and it's supposed to help my condition, but it's going to offset, cause damage to another part of my body. And this is what they're doing. There's only two countries that I've heard of that allow the advertisement of pharmaceuticals: New Zealand and the United States. The other countries, they don't advertise unless that's changed. Okay, but by advertising it, they are lawfully bound to actually have to list the side effects. And I believe if there wasn't a law that mandated that, they wouldn't even list it because they keep you going back. So, doctor, I've been taking this for my liver, but I'm having heart palpitations. So, oh, come visit me and give them another medication. Okay, so this is the thing that because of the capitalist control, it's unfortunate, but that will change over time when people realize that they have the power to help themselves. We're not going to eliminate medicine on a whole, but we will learn to kind of balance it. So be more of an emphasis on what you can do to empower yourself so that you can prevent a lot of problems. Okay. And right now, like again, the situation is set up where, once you get into the system, you kind of you're locked in a sense. Okay. But we're there to help open minds up, open hearts up, so we can actually start to do change with that. So you're going to also get different downloads outside of what I've been sharing with you. If you do so, then please follow them. Okay, because this is how your intuition will work. By your heart, by your truthfulness, your humbleness, your open mind and open heart, you want to help to reduce the suffering of humankind. So you're doing this out of love and compassion for yourself, your family, and for the whole human race. So because you're in that alignment, you will get ideas or downloads that say, well, maybe I can send it to the medical profession. Maybe I'll start sending it to the hospitals in my region. Maybe I'll start sending it to childcare, whatever. So we all will be hitting different areas because we all have different duties. But we're all on the same team. See where I'm getting at? But we have different roles. That's why it's good for us to be able to share and recognize it. Okay? Because this is going to be so exciting as we go through it. So again, we want to set a time. I know Ken and I will work on a time of suggestion for you guys. If you have a suggestion for a time, let's say early next month, or it could be in the middle of the month, a date that will work for you, or several dates that will work for you, send them to Ken right, as soon as you can, so we can work around everyone. And also people who weren't able to attend. I had a friend who was from the Netherlands, Leah, and she received the email from Who Training, informed her she wanted to attend. And Ken, I know you might have gotten something from her. Her name is Leah. She's from Holland.
Not that I know. No, I think I would have noticed.
She sent it to me. Okay, so maybe she failed to send it. But anyway, we will help as many people. Rob, you told me something the last time we had dinner together about the college students suffering from depression. I want you, and again, this is just my personal request from you, okay? You can accept it or not, but I want you to pray on how you can help the college students. Because at that age, they're very aware of what's wrong with the world they live in, and they can be some very important game changers. So right now, we don't have an exact path on how a method to actually address them. But you being a university professor, I want you to, if you feel like it, pray and ask for guidance on how we can help the student body, because it's so sad to hear that they're at this age where they can contribute so much, and they be getting depressed and they're taking their own life. It's not
That's
good.
the one thing I focus on in my meditations, is just that none of them harm themselves, and that they have the strength to reach out for help. And hey, we've had a better couple of years, so.
Yeah, I heard you guys have had a fair amount of it on that campus.
Oh, Ken, we had, and I'm no longer in administration, partly as a result of that. We're gonna put this on YouTube, so I'm going to shut up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I
Yeah,
heard
that's
that
one-
recently, actually. I didn't know. Wow. Oh boy.
But anyway, to close everything off, anything you guys want to add? Any comments?
I think Dan's asleep over there. Dan, are you awake? Raise your hand. Yeah, he's awake. Okay, he's taking it all in. Nikki too.
Okay.
All right. Guess that's that.
When you
Hey,
guys
Rob,
figure out a time, send me a list and I'll go ahead and send out the links. We can use my Zoom and then we won't get cut off.
Okay. Well, you guys should send me time too, if and then I'll coordinate it with everybody to tell it. Hey, Rob, I was going to throw this at you because Bill V keeps mentioning this. 3 of us here will be together at 8 in the morning. If you want to come and just stretch and do some of the breathing exercises and then hit the road, that's fine. He said you've been having body stuff. We do a lot of things that break it apart. If you just want to come and try that part.
Tomorrow I got a hard no. I am interested though, but I firmly have to
Just
stick
throwing
with
it out there directly because I know Bill tells you, but just
I can't get concussed anymore. My wife won't allow that.
oh,
so.
I understand that. That's cool.
No,
Yeah,
I don't roll.
he said you wouldn't be doing any of that anymore. Yeah. There's a whole first thing we do in the beginning that's all just it's a lot of joint mobility work. It's a lot of breath work.
That stuff would be
And,
interesting.
That part might be something you want to just come for that part sometime.
Keep me posted.
Yeah. Oh.
All right, dude.
Okay, guys. I guess that's it.
Okay. To show gratitude for our guidance and overcoming some of the technical glitches, we'll do a short 30-second meditation. This is
Okay.
short gratitude to the universe. Okay, ready? And begin. Okay, finish.
Okay, guys. I'm gonna shut this thing down here then. And yeah, everybody email me if you're interested here getting together and tell me a good day and time again, and then I'll coordinate back to Stan and then back out to everybody else.
Thank you, Stan, for passing this on.
Thanks, Stan.
Thanks everybody.
See you soon.
We're all one.
See you later, guys.
Take care.
Take care.